हाँ, because there was a war which was going on, right? And then one has to take one side. For example, North Korea was sided by USSR and South Korea was sided by USA. Okay, and there is also the division which happened between North Korea and South Korea. The division line, which we call it as 38 parallel line, right? That is 38 parallel. So that is a division. Okay. What happened? अभी जो पिछला, because you have missed the classes, that's okay. So what you can do, you can start from today, and then whatever has been left, see the recorded lectures. हाँ. क्योंकि what I have to teach वो बहुत ही कम, and I have to give the notes to you. कल मैंने notes लिखवाए भी थे. You were not present, I guess. अच्छा, you were present. हाँ, so I made you write all the important points, and rest of that explanation will be given to you through PDF. Okay, सिर्फ वो फिर मोनोलॉग हो जाएगा that I am saying one thing and you are not understanding. International relations ऐसे नहीं समझ आएगा, स्टोरी के बिना, कहानी के बिना नहीं समझ आएगा. It's a first you have to go into the history, then you have to understand the present situation. ठीक है? पॉलिटी से इंटरलिंक, नेम बताओ. फॉर एग्जांपल इंटरनेशनल, पूरा रिलेशन मतलब इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन आपके पूरा इससे पॉलिटी से कहाँ? नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. एक आधा कोई टॉपिक हो जाए तो आई कांट से, बिकॉज आई कांट रिकॉल इट. वो तो कंपैरिजन है, दैट इज कंप्लीटली कि उनका क्या स्टेट है, मोनार्की है, यहाँ पे प्रेसिडेंशियल रूल है. पॉलिटी से देखिए दोनों सब्जेक्ट्स डिफरेंट है, तभी तो डिफरेंट डिफरेंट नेम दिए गए. हाँ, कुछ ओवरलैप कहीं कहीं कभी कभी हो जाता है, बट वो भी सिर्फ डिफरेंस बिटवीन द फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट या फिर वेदर इट्स प्रेसिडेंशियल, हमारा जैसे हाउ द गवर्नमेंट इज इलेक्टेड, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, दीज कैन बी द डिफरेंसेस. आप बताइए. पहले कहानी सुनो, इतना कंफ्यूजन रखोगे यू वोंट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड. रुक जाओ, लेट मी जस्ट स्टार्ट. रुको, ठीक है. सी, ऑल ऑफ यू जस्ट लिसन, इफ यू हैव एनी डाउट लास्ट में पूछना. ठीक है, ओके. सो हमारा फेज स्टार्ट होता है 1945. ठीक है, 1945 में क्या हो रहा था? यस, वर्ल्ड वॉर. सो वर्ल्ड वॉर हो रहा था. देन व्हाट हैपेंड? हिरोशिमा नागासाकी वाला सिचुएशन हुआ. ठीक है. एंड व्हाट अबाउट नॉर्थ कोरिया एंड साउथ कोरिया? कोल्ड वॉर, कोल्ड फेज हमारा कब से स्टार्ट हुआ? 1945 से कब तक चला? 1991 तक. तो नॉर्थ कोरिया को किसने साइड किया? नॉर्थ कोरिया वाज साइडेड बाय यूएसएसआर, और साउथ कोरिया यूएसए. उससे पहले ये लोग क्या कह रहे थे? that we will be able to settle that down together. but जब कोल्ड वॉर स्टार्ट हो गया, कोल्ड फेज स्टार्ट हो गया, then what happened? this could not be continued for a long period of time. ठीक है. अब यूएसए, बहुत सारे इश्यूज थे इसके अंदर अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट. देन इंडिया वाज साइडिंग whom? इंडिया वांटेड कि आप इसको प्लीज सॉर्ट इट आउट. ठीक है. दे वर नॉट साइडिंग एनी ऑफ देम. So one thing that India and USA got conflicted on was the prisoners of war. Prisoners of war, everybody understand, right? So prisoners of war की destiny India ने कहा let them decide wherever they want to go. But USA wanted forced कि आपका जहाँ का है उनको फोर्स करेंगे. With the term is known as repartition, right? I'll make you write all that. No, do not worry. ठीक है. So that should be reparted. मतलब जहाँ पे भी हैं वो लोग, उनको वहीं पर ही ले जाइए, और जहाँ पे उनका ओरिजिन है, ओरिजिन ऑफ देयर बर्थ जहाँ पे भी है उनका, जस्ट टेक देम देयर. इंडिया ने बोला कि लेट देम डिसाइड देयर डेस्टिनी. ठीक है. so this is one of the point of conflict between India and USA. ठीक है, where the India was not siding USA in this, right? so इसके अलावा भी बहुत सारे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स थे. तो ये जब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स आए तो इंडिया, USA turned too much bitter for India at that point of time, right? कितना समझ आया यहाँ तक? अब लिखो दोबारा से, फिर आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू. ठीक है. हाँ, कोरिंग क्राइसिस लिखिए. राइट डाउन. सबसे पहले लिखेंगे व्हाई दे वर कोरियन क्राइसिस आपको पता है ना, यू डोंट हैव टू गेट इनटू दैट कि कोरियन क्राइसिस क्या था, वो एक वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री का पार्ट है, ठीक है, वो आप वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में पढ़ेंगे. नाउ राइट डाउन, यूएस वाज डिससैटिस्फाइड, राइट डाउन, यूएस वाज डिससैटिस्फाइड with India's response to Korean crisis due to India's role in neutral nations repatriations commission, REPAT, repatriation commission. India's role in neutral nations repatriation. अब लिख लीजिए repatriation, REPATRIATION commission. Full stop. पहले अपनी रिस्पॉन्स लिख लीजिए. The exclusion of freedom, it stands on the prisoners of war issue commission, comma, why it is making so much of noise. Kindly mute yourself, online students. Okay, comma, it stands on prisoners of war PWO issue. It stands on prisoners of war issue and the exclusion of India from the armistice. Just write down like that. AR international conference. Underline this. India from the post-armistice international conference. Full stop. The US favored the forced repatriation. The US favored the forced repatriation of prisoners of war, while India insisted on allowing POWs to choose their fate. Furthermore, USA barred means stop. USA barred, barred, BARRED. USA barred. Furthermore, USA barred India from post-armistice conference. Conference. अब इंडिया का रोल क्या था? What was India's role in this? That it was neutral in this situation. जब war, मतलब they wanted to mediate. First of all, they wanted to mediate between them कि सब कुछ ठीक हो जाए. ठीक है? India was neutral more of because it was not siding कि नहीं ये, because अगर आप एक साइड ले लेते हो तो क्या होता? यूएसए को प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं होती. अगर आप हमें मिलाते रहते सब चीजों में तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं होती. पर क्या हुआ? इंडियाज प्रिंसिपल न्यूट्रलिटी एंड एफर्ट्स टू मीडिएट between the Cold War adversaries was sometimes seen as a constraint rather than the assertion of diplomatic influence by the US. तो देखिए, अगर USA कुछ कह रहा है and India is not saying yes to it, that means rather than favoring US, they wanted to have their own stance. and when they said that we will have our own stance, so uska kya hua, there was kind of a bitterness that emerged from USA side. So that's why the Korean crisis tha, it was a point of what, conflict between both of them. So लिखिए first tense, India's role in the Korean War. फिर से पॉइंट्स लिखिए, सब पॉइंट्स में लिखिए. India's role in the Korean War. पहला पॉइंट लिखिए न्यूट्रलिटी. उनका स्टैंड क्या था, न्यूट्रलिटी. We will be neutral to the situation. हाँ बिल्कुल लिखिए. India's principled neutrality. प्रिंसिपल्ड का क्या मतलब होता है? What do you understand by principled? Principled, what do you mean by principled here? Principled distance. पॉलिटी में भी आता है ये टर्म, प्रिंसिपल्ड डिस्टेंस. आई थिंक पी पॉलिटिकल साइंस में या पॉलिटी में दिस. हाँ, सेफ, राइट. सो दैट इज व्हाट, दैट प्रिंसिपल्ड न्यूट्रलिटी दैट दे मेंटेन. उसका क्या मतलब होता है, दैट यू आर नॉट सेइंग टू मच ऑन एनी मैटर. दैट इज कॉल्ड द प्रिंसिपल्ड डिस्टेंस. ठीक है. whenever you will be like that you don't want to comment on anything which is too much sensitive. For example, it's a sensitive topic है कोई, या so you won't be like ठीक है, you will try to give a statement which is हाँ neutral, बहुत ही diplomatic statement you will try to give. ठीक है. Principled neutrality and efforts to mediate, between Cold War adversaries. हाँ, अपने लिखने में तो हाँ बाद में. ठीक है. ओके. Between Cold War adversaries were sometimes seen as a constraint. Constraint means hurdles, right? Constraint rather than the assertion of diplomatic influence by the US. Next is POW exchange. I think we have written on POW what was the stance, right? उसी में हेडिंग लिख दो ऊपर POW, जो ऊपर आपने लिखा है ना, एक स्टैंस लिखा है इंडिया का, राइट. प्लीज उसी को हेडिंग बना दीजिए POW exchange. Okay. So one can tell me how many points we have written in this? How many points we have written in this? 3 हुए ना. एक न्यूट्रलिटी, एक POW और एक और था, इससे पहले भी तो यू हैव रिटन ना, जस्ट टेल. हाँ, पोस्ट आर्मिस्टाइज के बाद भी कुछ लिखवाया था. यस. ठीक है. ऑलराइट. लिखिए कोरियन वॉर के बारे में थोड़ा सा बताइए. यस. राइट डाउन द कोरियन वॉर. छोटा सा लिखना ही, वैसे वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री का पार्ट है, बट just in order to make you understand the context, I want you to the Korean War. Write down on 25th June 1950. On 25th June 1950, North Korea, backed by USSR, launched an attack on South Korea. Launched an attack on South Korea and occupied most of the country. Next point. In response, United Nations force United Nations force led by the US led by the US retaliated. Retaliated. Write down. India was actively involved in negotiating peace in the Korean Peninsula by engaging peace in the Korean Peninsula by engage all major stakeholders, stakeholders by engage, engage all major stakeholders, US, USSR and China. Okay. So this is a very short description of what was Korean War and how the India had to take a stance on it and why USA was pissed off from India because of this. ये बहुत छोटा ये सब पॉइंट है जो कि मुझे एक्सप्लेन करना पड़ रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ द बैकग्राउंड. ठीक है, ये पूरा यू डोंट हैव टू गेट इनटू डेप्थ. कौन से सब्जेक्ट में आप डेप्थ में जाएंगे? इसमें वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में जाएंगे इसके डेप्थ में, नॉट इन दिस. ठीक है, हाँ हाँ पूछिए. हाँ मतलब देखो कहीं पे भी हो, अब वो कह रहे हैं अगर यहाँ पर है तो टेल देम टू गो बैक टू देयर ओरिजिन, यहाँ पर है तो गो बैक टू देयर ओरिजिन, जस्ट लाइक दैट. खुद का देखो मतलब दे शुड डिसाइड व्हाट इज देयर, इट इज देयर चॉइस ना, उनका चॉइस है. हाँ हाँ उनका चॉइस है कहाँ जाना चाहते हैं. व्हाई वी आर फोर्सिंग समथिंग ऑन समवन. ठीक है ना, अनलेस दे आर नॉट सेइंग दिस. ठीक है, चलो. हाँ ओके. नाउ इज और कोई पॉइंट जिसमें प्रॉब्लम हुआ कल बताइए. हाँ नो मतलब बहुत सारी इश्यूज थे, नॉट ओनली दैट. नहीं, देयर वाज मोर ऑफ रीजंस अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट. जस्ट you can say for now that it was Japan only, but apart from that there were many reasons. हाँ बहुत सारे रीजन से. अभी आपका स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ ना वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री वगैरह. ओके 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 ठीक है. अब लिखेंगे न्यूक्लियर पॉलिसी. सिर्फ न्यूक्लियर पॉलिसी हम किसकी डिस्कस करेंगे? बिटवीन इंडिया एंड यूएस. ठीक है ओके. राइट डाउन 1963 USA and India signed USA and India signed an accord. USA and India signed an accord, full stop. It stipulated STIPULATED it stipulated that USA will supply enriched fuel to India's Tarapur nuclear power plant. India's Tarapur nuclear power plant. 1974 में क्या किया था इंडिया ने? They tested their Pokhran, right? They tested their own missile, and then it was a point of what? Contention between US and India. They put the sanction at that point of time. तब तक सब सही चल रहा था. They said that we will be providing the enriched elements for the Tarapur atomic plant, but then after that it became very bitter. Why? Because India tested it, and USA was not at all agreeing that they were not happy with what India has done. So this is a very I think it's a sovereign decision of one country that if somebody wants to test something, ठीक है, वो उनका खुद का decision है. So putting the sanction on that for that thing, I think it was not right. And for example, USA जबकि खुद के पास उनके पास क्या था? They had their nuclear weapons present. किस के पास है अभी nuclear weapons? उस टाइम पे किस के पास था? US, Russia, China, France, and yes. Okay, so write down. अब तो काफियों के पास है. हाँ, वो हो चुका है. वो भी तो हमने वही तो साइन नहीं किया है. We'll discuss about that. उतने non-proliferation, non-proliferation, it's NON. ठीक है, तभी yes. और साइन किया है किसने नहीं किया है उस पर डिपेंड करता है. If you have not signed it, that means yes. Okay. Now write down. India's first successful nuclear weapons test was carried out at Pokhran. India's first successful nuclear weapons test was carried out at Pokhran. Now write down. Because of this, USA put sanctions on India. USA put sanctions on India for testing it in their territory. Now write down India-US Civil Nuclear Agreement. Next point. 2008 इसका timeline लिखेंगे. Civil Nuclear Agreement, or we also call it 123 Agreement. US-India Civil Nuclear Agreement, or we also call it 123 Agreement. 2008. Who was the Prime Minister back then? And what happened in the assembly? And I think this is one of the best moves that India could have. There were a lot of people who were not ready that this should happen. But our Prime Minister was very rigid on this, that this should actually happen, right? And what was the reason for that? You will get to know it now. Write down. राइट डाउन इंटरनेशनल एटॉमिक एनर्जी एजेंसी सेफगार्ड्स. इफ यू गेट द टाइम प्लीज लुक एट इट, उससे आपको ज्यादा समझ में आएगा. व्हाट वाज द स्टैंस. ठीक है. If you get the time, so what you can do, you can just go to that period and analyze why people were not in favor of this, why people were in favor of this. ठीक है. हाँ. But बहुत, I think the discussion went on for a very long time, right? I think I don't know, in night it went for a very long time. Okay. Write down International Atomic Energy Agency safeguards. International Atomic Energy Agency safeguards. Full stop. India permanently placed its India permanently placed its civil nuclear reactors under IAEA. Safe civilian nuclear reactors under IAEA safeguards. Civilian, जो सुन रहे हो वही है. Write down. Write down. Now, significance of India-US civil nuclear agreement. Write down significance. Significance of India-US civil nuclear agreement. First point. Ended India's. Heading डालेंगे significance of India-US civil nuclear agreement. First point. Ended India's nuclear isolation. Ended India's nuclear isolation. The agreement marked a historic shift by lifting a India marked ठीक बोला है, अब लिखो आगे. The agreement marked a historic shift by lifting a 3-decade US ban. You have to speed up a bit because you have to also write the means. And in means, if this would be the speed, then you will be able to complete only half of the question. 20 questions are mandate. You will be able to do only 10 questions. So it is important that now you should focus on how you have to increase the speed. Move on. Now, legitimize India's nuclear status. Legitimize India's nuclear status. It granted India as a nuclear weapons state. ब्रैकेट में लिखेंगे despite its refusal to sign NPT. NPT is your non-proliferation treaty. India ने क्या बोला? That we will not sign NPT. And despite the fact India has not signed it, still it got the tag of recognition of nuclear weapon state. And that's a very big thing. ठीक है. उससे क्या क्या होगा अगर उनको स्टेटस मिल जाएगा तो वो लिखिए. allowing access to इंटरनेशनल न्यूक्लियर टेक्नोलॉजी. प्लीज इसको अंडरलाइन करिए. international nuclear technology. Right? Further on, तो उसको थर्ड पॉइंट भी बना सकते हैं. It strengthened the India-US strategic partnership. It's strategic partnership. It strengthens the India-US strategic partnership. Next point. Enhance domestic energy security. Enhanced domestic energy security. A very, very important point I'm going to make you write. What was the significance of it? Last point, enabled participation in other regimes. Enabled participation in other regimes. REGIMES. ठीक है? Write down. Post 2008, India joined. Post 2008, India joined 3 major export control regimes. India joined 3 major export control regimes. The first is missile technology control regime, which is MTCR. Missile technology control regime, MTCR. Then next, Wassenaar Agreement, WASSENAAR arrangement. It's arrangement. 2017. And last, Australia Group, 2018. Right? This is how these Australia Group, 2017. Right? Australia Group, 2017. I said it is 2017. It is 2017. Okay. Now, one has to understand. करनी होगी. We have to run the course. देखो ऐसे नहीं चलेगा. Because environment में I give a lot of relaxation. करना पड़ेगा थोड़ा. ठीक है? I think everybody. Do you have any problem with the speed? How many of you have the problem with the speed? Everybody is okay with the speed? Raise your hand who all are okay. बस. So you have to. मैंने कहा ना. You have to, because अब तो 2.5 months हो गया है मेरे साथ. मैंने I try to slow down in the initial days. तो थोड़ा सा आपको इनसे you can take the reference. वर्ड सिलेक्शन एक्चुअली क्या होता है इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में. यू हैव टू फोकस. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल वन, इफ आई एम सेइंग समथिंग सो यू कैन नॉट राइट समथिंग एल्स. फॉर एग्जांपल डेटरेंस हैज टू बी यूज्ड एज अ डेटरेंस ओनली. आप उसको फियर नहीं लिख सकते. आ रहा है मतलब? अच्छा ओके ठीक है. नहीं आई एम नॉट सेइंग. अच्छा धीरे मतलब वॉल्यूम आप चाहते हो तेज हो जाए. हाँ वॉल्यूम आई नो प्रॉब्लम. ठीक है. ओके. व्हाट हैपेंड? अच्छा ओके ठीक है. ओके ठीक है. डन. सो इंडिया यूएस का हमने डिस्कस किया. क्या क्या डिस्कस किया? न्यूक्लियर थिंग वी हैव डिस्कस्ड. वी हैव डिस्कस्ड द कोरियन थिंग. ठीक है. कहाँ नैम. वेरी गुड. सो एटलीस्ट 3 बैकग्राउंड्स यू हैव कि क्या क्या हुआ था. ठीक है. राइट. So this is what happened in the pre-Cold War period. Now we are moving to the post-Cold War period. Right on. post Cold War phase 1991. From here actually we are starting the new topic. कल का explanation था, इससे पहले that we did. ठीक है. India-US relations, write down, have made significant strides in the post-Cold War era. India-US have made significant strides. STRIDES, strides. Strides मतलब क्या होता है? Effort. ठीक है? Significant strides in the post-Cold War era, leaving infamous tag of estranged democracy. Leaving the infamous tag of estranged democracies. ESTRAN, estranged democracies behind. ठीक है? हाँ, right? Write down. In 1991, the collapse of Soviet Union. In 1991, the collapse of Soviet Union, the end of Cold War, and economic liberalization of India. The two countries looked afresh. At their bilateral relations. क्यों ऐसा हुआ? Why they looked afresh? Because अब Soviet Union तो था नहीं. There were no two blocks. एक ही block बचा था, right? And when there is only one person who is dominating the whole world, person means what? USA. USA का influence है, USA ही है. Then everything will go towards USA. There is no choice. Competition ही नहीं है. Either to select him or them, or keep yourself neutral. वो तो option ही नहीं था. Now they favored USA only. ठीक है? Bilateral relation, and I hope that we have discussed the glossary in the first class. Everybody knows what do you mean by bilateral. ठीक है? Write down. Second point, two countries held joint naval exercise. Two countries held joint naval exercise in May 1992. In May 1992. First up, Prime Minister Rao paid an official visit to the US in May 1994, which further helped to strengthen ties, the ties, and was followed by signing off several memorandum of understanding. Right. In 1995, following the India visit by the US Defense and Commerce Secretaries, comma, following the India visits, were you writing with pencil? What happened? Acha. Okay. Uh, 1994, which helped to strengthen ties. कहाँ पे थे हम लोग? Following the India visits by the US Defense and Commerce Secretary, comma, several agreements were signed. Comma, several agreements were signed. Several agreements were signed. ठीक है? Now write down. However, US trade laws still affected India's export. Can you see the problem was then also there? The problem आज का tariff का new नहीं है. Problem was there at that point of time also. Which time we are talking about? 1995, and still India is discussing what? Exports problem with USA. ठीक है? So this is why it is important to study the relations background and then to come to the contemporary world. Okay? Now write down. US trade laws still affected India's export, which again was disturbing factor in Indo-US relations. Full stop. Relations saw setback. Relations saw setback regarding sale of F-16 F-16 aircrafts F-16 aircrafts to Pakistan. To Pakistan. Full stop. Once again, write down. Once again, supply of write down, to Tarapur reactor suffered. पहले कब सफर हुआ था? 1974 में, when they tested what? पोखरान. और फिर दोबारा से अब सफर हुआ. Why? Because they started supporting Pakistan. ठीक है, write down. Tarapur reactor suffered. Write down. Sales of cryogenic 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 engines were hit, comma, which created discomfort between two. Next, last two paras left. The high rates of economic growth in India ushered ushered through domestic reforms. What domestic reforms we are talking about? Very good. Attracted international investors. Domestic reforms attracted international investors, and India's strategic thinkers quickly captured this opportunity. India's strategic thinker quickly captured this opportunity. India's strategic thinkers quickly captured this opportunity. Okay? Now this is what we have done on the nuclear relations. We have done, right. We have done the pre-cold phase period and the post-cold phase period, right? Okay. Now write down from the period Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken the charge. So how the relations have changed? Write down. Write down from 1914. Oh, sorry, 2014, when our Prime Minister Narendra Modi took over, comma, Barack Obama, Barack Obama had been the president of US for almost 6 years. You can quote this also, what Barack Obama had a view. He said that thank God, at least like Pakistan, India is not a problem. And why they were having the problem with Pakistan? Obviously because of the 9/11 attack. And it was under the operation because it's all that in under this presidentship of Obama, what happened, there was an attack on the basis of terrorist actually happened during his time only. Like the operation happened. How many of you know that? Or everybody is looking clueless about that? Do you remember? बैरक ओबामा के अंदर उनकी प्रेसिडेंटशिप में हुआ था. क्या हुआ था? Have you seen the documentary also? It is present on the Netflix. Just have a look at it if somebody does not know. उनके बेसिस पे पाकिस्तान के टेररिस्ट. हाँ हाँ पूरा पूरा है. ठीक है ना. किस किस को नहीं पता? How many of you are clueless about this? आपको नहीं पता? Just go to, and watch the documentary. Take the reference from it. ठीक है? So you will get to know everything. ठीक है? फिर क्या हुआ था? Okay? Now write down. Write down. Our Prime Minister Modi invested heavily in building up personal relationships, in building up personal relationships with peers abroad, with peers abroad. Full stop. He sought to cement. He sought to cement personal friendships with national leaders who are politically important to who are politically important, friendships with national leaders who are politically important to India. He majorly focused on he majorly focused on two different areas. The first is the first is in the area of the first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate change. The first is in the area of climate chan He recognized the significance. He recognized the significance of securing an international consensus on mitigating climate change. Now stop here. So what climate change we are talking about? Consensus on climate change. Can you tell me which agreements we are talking about? Paris Agreement. We have done in detail the Paris Agreement, right? In 2015 it happened. So what was as see when somebody will take over on the very common issue, which is common for everyone, and also you will actively participate in that. That will also do what you call in international relations mutual benefit, mutual interest, right? And this is the point where he focused on because people think that still till now also this is one of the major common ground on which many countries are coming together. And when you identify the major ground, that means you will be able to carry it forward. ठीक है? अगर कोई ground आपका substantial नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा? There will be a no. सिर्फ आप अपनी ही फायदे की बात करेंगे. For example, if I go and talk to some the national leaders of some country, then what will happen? I'm just talking about my thing, right? So this is not what I have to talk to the concern of other person also, and also smoothly put my point also in front of him so that it should be a win-win situation. Right? And when there will be a win-win situation, then there will be a substantial ground. So one ground that he picked up was climate change. Until now, he is the one who is he's building the propaganda behind it. For example, there should be more of what use of the renewable energies, right? He's investing a lot in the solar power plants. He's investing in the wind power plant. So there are a lot of this happening in India, right? And all because of what? The representative. अगर आपका representative कैसा है, who is too much what? Who can take you, lead you, and can put you in front of the different world, right? Who can represent you in a better way. Then people start trusting him, and then people start trusting him. Then what happens? The things happens. For example, the deal happens. The people because the leader should be right. Okay, so this is what happened in his time. Before that, what we used to see. आपको अगर बुलाया जा रहा है इनविटेशन में तो how was the scenario? I'm not saying they were demeaning anyone, but the point is you can actually see जब आपका the ties are so close, then you can see in the gesture also, right? For example, different treatment will be given to you, right? And what was the situation before that? Initiatives नहीं देते थे. Exactly. What kind of initiatives? Hmm. 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 पहले नहीं होता. पहले किस तरह से होता था? सिर्फ क्लाइमेट चेंज. एग्जैक्टली अटेंडेंस देने जाते थे, राइट? कैसा अटेंडेंस? बस फिजिकली आप प्रेजेंट है वहां पे. देयर इज नो टॉकिंग हैपनिंग. यू आर सी व्हेन यू विल सी योरसेल्फ एज not so superior to somebody, then there will be a problem, right? And when you will go with the mindset that we are no less, if he is having that thing, we are also having this, right? So when you analyze such things and then you talk and negotiate, then the things shifts. Okay, after 2014 we started also realizing that we are also something, right? Not only that we have to always be dependent, right? काफी countries हम पे dependent हैं already, right? अभी क्या बोल रहे हैं Trump? He's saying even if the goods and material will not come from India, that's okay. We are having the goods coming from different countries वैसे ही, right? If you go in the departmental store of USA, you any grocery store, any store, what you will get? You will get multiple items. यहाँ पे आपको अगर 10 varieties मिल रही है इंडिया के अंदर, there you will get how many varieties? 100 times. इतना variety होता है. It's very hard to choose also, right? So even if some 10 items would not be there or varieties would not be there, we have the alternatives already with us, right? That is their yes attitude right now, right? I've been reading a lot of this thing that what is people's take on this, what he has done, but not at all, nobody is happy. But again, what will happen with this? Abhi kya kar rahe hain hum? What India is trying to do? Is he going and talking? What they are doing? We are making our own strategy. We are not giving any statement, first of all. Apart from that, this thing has happened, we are just giving the statements from the foreign ministry. The statement is coming, the Ministry of External Affairs, only for the people who are living outside, because Indians are there, right? So we have to make the statement, we have to take the responsibility, so that the confusion should not be there. Otherwise क्या होगा, panic create होगा, और हुआ भी है panic create. Lot of people who were boarded the flights, they actually deboarded them immediately, so that why there was a lot of confusion happening. पहले इंस्टेंस में क्या लगेगा आपको कि you have to move back to America again, otherwise they will not give us the visas. Okay, so people were very apprehensive of all those things which happened. So Ministry of External Affairs had to release some kind of a statement that we are with you or whatever, with our people who are outside. Okay. Otherwise, there is no official statement coming from Mr. Prime Minister Modi, right? And apart from that, कोई भी ऐसा statement नहीं. Whatever they are doing, every time, after every day, I am just hearing one or two statements coming from the presidency of US administration. वहाँ से कोई ना कोई statement आ रहा होता है. It shows lot of confusion, unpredictability, and we don't have to respond to everything. And by staying neutral, this is also you can write that by staying neutral, this is we can work on how we have to retaliate. Okay. Next is दूसरा हमारा पॉइंट ऑफ कोऑपरेशन क्या आया जो पहले नहीं था. एक तो क्लाइमेट चेंज, दूसरा क्या आया, very important, I discussed with you yesterday also, Indo-Pacific. Why Indo-Pacific relations are important? To counter China, क्योंकि 2008 से पहले तो China was having the peaceful rise. उससे पहले तो they had a very peaceful rise. उसके बाद they adopted expansionist policy. अब USA को फिर वो हुआ कि we have to counter them, and there is no best option rather than India to counter China. So therefore they build on the India-Pacific relations. ठीक है, इसलिए India is important. Please put it here. India is important, and India को क्या माना गया that अब relations build होंगे. ठीक है. So now write down another example of remarkable success. Another examples of remarkable success has been India's cooperation. Has been India's cooperation. Has been India's cooperation with US in shaping security environment, in shaping security environment in the Indo-Pacific. While this term has taken on new life, while this term has taken on new life under President Trump, the defining agreement between US and India occurred under President Obama. If you really want to, I'll tell you some of the sites. How many of you are actually interested in international relations to keep a track on everything? Genuinely, how many of you are? Without any force. Okay. Okay, done then. There's a site I'm telling you that you can refer. Observer Research Foundation. There you can keep a track of the things. Then I hope that you are following PIB. How many of you are following? ये इंडिया का ही है. If you'll go under this, वो सबके लिए है. I'm just talking specifically for international relations. Only international. अच्छा आता है? हाँ. Then you can also write that. You can refer that. Next, write down. This is not mandate, okay? Three are enough, right? The last one is, I mean, if you want to refer, that's fine. Geopolitical monitor. Geopolitical monitor. Only for those who have too much of interest in international relations and they want to expand their knowledge. Okay? All right. What you have written, abhi tak? That's all. Please write down a question, practice question. Write down the practice question and you have to show me tomorrow. How did Modi's diplomacy, how did Modi's diplomacy improve India's ties, India's ties with the US? Next, what was the objective? Next question, what was the objective of US in improving its nuclear ties with India? Its nuclear ties with India. ठीक है? Write down 10 mark or 15 marks. No, you should write in 15 marks. 15 marks. Okay? Okay. Okay. Yes, online students, you can write the sites which I've given. And tomorrow, if possible, the 4 sites are enough for that, I think, to maintain your knowledge base. See, there are some people who keep on tracking what is happening. क्यों important है international relations को track करना? करंट आपके लिए करंट अफेयर्स है. बहुत लोग कुछ और के लिए करते हैं. क्यों? कुछ तो होगा ना. कुछ लोग पॉलिटिक्स और स्टॉक मैनेजमेंट. एक्सीलेंट. और किस चीज के लिए? एक्चुअली बहुत वॉलेटिलिटी होती है तो बहुत लोग देखते रहते क्या चल रहा है. व्हाट स्टेटमेंट. एक बहुत ही अच्छा मैंने एक वीडियो देखा था, उसके अंदर स्टॉक actually got it declined, the rates declined only on the basis of that कि जो आपका रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है वो क्या बोलेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ इज गोइंग yes, is he going to say this is what people track. इतनी छोटी छोटी डिटेल्स. ठीक है. They are this, so the market is so volatile, right? I hope you know about NASDAQ. How many of you know about NASDAQ? NASDAQ, right? So this is what वहाँ से you will be keep on tracking and then they track here in India. ठीक है? All right. Thank you so much.